Let's kick this off. JB, would love to learn a little bit about yourself. If you don't mind, tell me about your background. I want to dive into Scribe, but let's get some pre-context. What's your journey? What's your story been like?
All right. Well, I'm from Chicago, and I started my career. I'm like the oldest person in this entire industry. So I started my career in the mid 2000s, and I was actually a journalist. I was a political journalist, and thought I would do that for my life. Go cover politics and war and peace. And in the middle of 2005, 2006, that was like the first death of news as we knew it back then. So I had no job. I worked in politics for a really interesting governor of my state who ended up going to jail for corruption charges. So that was my first experience not being a journalist. I was a press secretary for him, and I decided that I had my fun and was not going to do that anymore. And I sort of fell into this field, broadly speaking, agency life, communications, media relations, working with people like yourself. I did that media relations for about 15 years. And again, during the pandemic, I got laid off. And I knew nothing really. Like, I'd worked on like blockchain tangentially projects that like EY was doing in like the mid 2010s, like really corporate blockchain stuff. But a firm that does communications in Web3 gave me a call, and they knew I knew nothing about blockchain, but they liked my experience. And so they gave me a crack at it. A firm called Waxman. Was with them for 3 years, running their Americas team, and then left them. And about 2 years ago, joined Scribe, and here we are. So it's been about 6 years in this crazy world of ours.
Absolutely. And the comms and relation space is always very interesting and fascinating, I think, because of the type of clients you have to deal with and the founders and the startups, but especially in Web3. And I'm probably speaking for both of us here, but I'm sure you could tell us more about it. But what's it been like working at Scribe? Like, what is your guys' kind of like mission ethos as a company that's focused on comms, focused on relations? Like, how do you kind of approach it in this space?
Yeah, so for us, we're coming at it from the standpoint of a long-term view of the space, which everybody says, and then everybody gives into short-term pressure and this, that, and the other. But what we want to do, like the mission, is we want to build brands that stand the test of time in the industry. Things that are going to be around and be meaningful in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and create them now. And so where we're looking at it from is very different than the incentive structure in crypto, which is often, we got a bunch of money and we did a TGE, or we got a big amount of VC cash. We have such a short time to make progress, and we just need to sort of pump it out. We need to sort of flood the zone with communications. And we're coming at it from a bit of a different place, where we definitely do things that have returns in that can be measured in months. But ideally, if we're doing our job right, we're building things that are more like, and not a client, but more like the Coinbases of the world, right? Where they're building a brand and they're not looking at it about like, where are we going to be at in the next 3 months, and that's a extreme example, very successful. Not a lot of Coinbases out there, but that's kind of where we're coming at the world from.
Excellent. Interesting. What are some things maybe that you notice about companies you work with in terms of like some of the mistakes they make when it comes to, this might be funny, but to comms and relations and, just PR in general? Most founders don't know what they're doing. Most companies don't know. And it's not their fault. But that's where you guys come in. And like, again, what are those mistakes you see like often?
Yeah, it gets back to the point of short-termism and confusing a large quantity of output with actually moving the needle. And I would say that in Web3, like the biggest mistake that we see, and we work with, like you said, we work with people on a daily basis, like having these conversations, is that in a lot of Web3 comms, it's about explaining. It's like, this is what we do, this is our tech. Well, they're not really telling stories. They're literally like unpacking the white paper. And the for a lot of folks, it's like, if we can just show everybody that we're the most scalable, the most interoperable, the most secure, whatever it is, right? If we can just unpack the white paper in the most clean way, and we can just explain it to people, then they're going to know logically that our tech is the best, and they're going to come to us. And that's just that. Like, I wish that the world work like that. Like, it'd be a much better world if we just were able to consume information and make logical, rational decisions based on, fact-based information. But that's just not how the world works, right? Like, human beings, we make decisions for reasons that we don't even understand, right? It's and with what we do, whether it's PR or building brand, whatever it is, right? Is we make decisions based on emotion and based on psychology and based on a lot of things that are happening in our subconscious. And so you can spend all the time in the world talking about, your L2 and why it's actually a lot more efficient than whatever the other L2 is. But that's not actually, you're not reaching anyone. And because everybody is saying the same things or a variation of the same things, and they're doing it in the same places, it's like the opposite of what marketing should be, right? Like, it just creates, we call the sea of sameness. And I'll finish the thought and toss it back to you. But it's we do a test with our clients when we start working with them, where we take their Twitter feed, because everyone's on Twitter, right? Is that the right or wrong place for every project to be? Like, every project probably shouldn't be on Twitter, but it's just, sea of sameness, everybody's on there. We take their Twitter feed, we juxtapose it against two competitors' Twitter feeds, and then we switch the logos from one feed to the next. And we hold up a tweet and we're like, who said this, you or your competitor? Because everyone's just saying the same damn thing. You know what I mean? And you can tell when Apple's talking to you versus when Harley Davidson's talking to you versus when McDonald's is talking to you, right? It's literally a different person, different brand. And so that's the mistake that we see, is such a focus on explaining things and not really even getting into the emotional, psychological connections that you need to build with your audiences.
Yeah, I want to touch on that point a little bit further, because the space can be really dense. There's a lot of tech. Everyone's competing with the same tech, and it's like, okay, why this over that? Where's the differentiator? Where's the story behind it? Where's the messaging that's going to get someone interested about what you're doing? I imagine it's quite a challenge a lot of times, because people do want to explain, like, this is what layer 2 we are, and we scale with this, and we use this and that to outperform. But I mean, it doesn't just resonate with an ordinary user in the space. Generally, it takes a little bit more, like, I like to say, community glazing, kind of getting to them in a way that they understand how to receive and, I think, digest what's happening, the tech and everything. Do you guys have like a strategy for that in terms of breaking things down, making things a little bit more digestible?
Yeah, so that part of it, which is like, hey, we're a highly technical product. It's really complicated. Even people who are in crypto don't really understand this or that, etc. We want to spend as little time playing that game as we possibly can. What we tell people is like, look, if somebody wants to go deep with you, right? Like, you're, at a hackathon and you're talking to devs and they want to know all about the code and XYZ, whatever, right? Like, good. And we'll help you do that, right? We'll help you unpack it. We'll give you nice, easy, digestible ways, but we don't want to spend our time doing that. That's like, in case of emergency, break glass is where you get out there with like the nice, clean explanation of the tech. Spend as little time doing that as humanly possible. And, there are industries out there that are every bit as complex and technical as blockchain is. Like, we'll say, look at the entire computing industry, cloud computing, that's not Web3, pharma, look at defense contractors, right? Look at the aerospace industry, look at chemicals, big chemicals, right? Like, these are all super, super highly technical things, but you don't see a lot of these companies spending any time talking about that, because they're doing the other stuff that they need to do. And so it's not even a matter of if we're working on a technical project versus selling shoes. As long as the customer or the stakeholder is a human being, you don't even want to be in the business of explaining. When you're explaining, you're losing, versus actually creating, again, meaningful connections with people. The last thing I'll say about that, an example that we give, and I think it generally resonates with more technical founders, is that, like, really, really serious people, including a lot of people in blockchain, they rely on Apple computers, right? They rely on Apple. There's people in cybersecurity and government work and defense, like really, really serious people using Apple's, like, for high stakes stuff, Nobody is breaking down even these highly technical people doing really serious things, is the M2 processor actually better than the Dell equivalent? Like, no one's looking at a spec sheet because they don't care, because it's actually not what's driving them to make purchasing decisions or to be brand loyal. What that is the emotional and psychological relationship that they have with Apple, even if they're not aware of it, even if they don't even know that they have this, but it's gotten into the subconscious, you know.
Another thing I want to ask is, I'm just curious, like if you guys are approaching any new verticals as a PR company. Obviously, Web3 is fantastic, and it's a never-ending story of excitement. There's always something going on, but I mean, there's other verticals like AI, for example, that's getting really popular, and just curious if you guys plan to expand any of those other fields, or where your guys' kind of roadmap lies going into the rest of the year.
That's a good question, man. Breaking down the business strategy. Spend a lot of time talking about this. So we're super committed to always being pure play, blockchain and Web3, and I don't think you'll ever see us make a pivot to being like a generalist tech agency or emerging tech, disruptive tech, where we're adding verticals where it's like we do blockchain and we do AI and we do, whatever it might be, quantum computing or whatever, we like the agency was founded by the three co-founders, like dedicated to crypto and blockchain, and I think that's like central. We do get like clients reaching out to us that are not in blockchain. I don't know how they hear about us, to be honest. We're only 2 years old, but take a compliment to the team's work. And like if Nike came along and they wanted us to work on like a sneaker project and it didn't have a blockchain, like yeah, sure, that would be like we do cool work, but it's like never going to be. It's never going to be central. Like when you visit our website, it's always going to be crypto, I think.
Want to do a little quick rapid fire session before we wrap up the episode? Just a couple quick questions. Give me whatever's at the top of your mind. Just have fun with it. And you probably have some biases with this as well, since you probably work with a lot of these companies and individuals. But do you have a Web3 personality in the space that you find the most fascinating or that you like the most?
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's a personality, and since we're here at Permissionless, and full disclosure, Blockworks is a client, but this is actually how I feel. They have a writer named Byron, and I think his last name is Gilliam, and he writes a column to email, and for me that is must read. I think he is such an amazing writer. And if I recall correctly, I met him a while back. He actually was not like born and raised in journalism. I think he did something in finance, and then he transitioned to this later in life. But he is an incredibly gifted writer, and he tells great stories. And it's the type of journalism that I wish there was more of. And so, if I'm gonna fanboy out, I'll say Byron from Blockworks is like must read.
Do you have a Web3 company, project, startup that you think is doing some amazing stuff in the space that you really like or that you're optimistic about?
Yeah, and so for us, like I have to answer the question not from a technical standpoint, or do I think the token's going to go to the moon, et cetera, but from a pure comms standpoint, and doing some of the stuff we're talking about as it relates to building a brand, creating emotional resonance, psychological resonance with stakeholders. I'll shout out the team at Midnight. They have a big presence here at Permissionless. They just launched their tokenomics paper, and the way that they went about that I thought was really quite smart, and I really like the way that they're going about building a new brand and having it not just be about all the same tech mumbo jumbo that we talked about earlier. So definitely give them a shout. Was really proud of the work our client Pinata did here at Permissionless. They did a really great campaign about believing about what's inside their decentralized file storage. And rather than talking about, again, like, here's why our file storage is more efficient and more secure and you can trust us, they did an entire emotionally driven campaign about believing what's inside, just like the people who are relying on them for, storing like their life's work. You might use them to, catalog the pods, So those would be the two right now, yeah.
Alt season 2025. This is something that's in the back of everyone's mind, whether they admit it or not. But do you think this is something that might be on the table this year still, or do you think it's kind of a foregone conclusion for this cycle, or do you have an opinion on it?
Man, I don't know. Like, I hope so. I hope so. I'm not really might get in trouble for this. I'm not really like a Bitcoin dominance type, And I think the more stuff that is going on outside of that particular strand of the industry is for the best. But man, if I knew that, I'd be a lot wealthier right now.
Final question. What do you think the theme is for this summer? Do you think it's stable coins? Do you think it's decentralized AI? Or do you have a different take?
Yeah, so we play a game at Scribe because, in Web3, I guess it's called narratives. Narratives mean something different in, the traditional communications world. But yeah, trends, what are, going to be the hot things? We have people, so similar to the question you asked me, we have our team write down, what do you think the hot thing is going to be, the narrative that's driving everything in 6 months? And then we revisit those. It's like the time capsule projects you did in kindergarten. And it's always laughable, right? And we're closer to this industry than like most people are. We work with, dozens of projects, and we can't predict anything worth, I don't know if I can swear on the pod or not, but worth a damn. Yeah. So I have no idea. I mean, I feel like people have been talking about the convergence of AI and crypto since literally ChatGPT, became what it is. I don't know. Stable coins, I mean, it's probably like one of the most useful things that's ever come out of this industry, and you see governments embracing it around the world. So, would seem like a pretty safe bet to me, but similar to all predictions, like man, I don't know, and that my track record is pretty shit when we've done the exercise.
I bet that's a fun exercise to do. I bet there's all kinds of revelations from that.
It's hilarious, and it's just like everyone at the time, myself included, we have such conviction about it. We're like, oh yeah, it's gonna be fucking L6, like whatever it is, and then and it's like literally, it's like seeing a bad like grade school yearbook photo when you're like, oh God, I can't believe I look like that,
JB, I appreciate the time, man. This has been great. Where can people go to learn more about Scrib3? And maybe there's a company that's watching this that needs some PR help. Maybe they're managing crisis. Maybe they need help with their narrative, whatever it may be. How do they get in contact?
Yeah, so website is Scribe. Scrib3 is how you'd spell it out, but scribe.co. So that's the best place to check us out. And yeah, love having intro convos, even if we don't end up working together. Like it's great for us, right? We get an inside view. We get an inside view that's similar to like what a VC would get when they're looking at stuff, but we get paid for the privilege of it. And even if we don't work together, it's just really cool. It's probably the best part of the job, right? Is getting under the hood of all these different projects and seeing what people are trying to do. So look us up, and love to chat.
What about yourself? Are you on X? Are you on LinkedIn? Where can people find you and connect?
Yeah, I have like the world's shittiest CT account, but it's at JB Scribe, Telegram at JB Scribe, and then my full name is Jeremy Berrington, and you can find me on LinkedIn.
Appreciate it, JB. We'll talk soon.